But you want the story on what I did to cut myself. Should I say the story? I think like I think most of you don't know what I'm talking about when I cut my hand. So I could just explain everything that happened. Basically, chat, he cut wood. I mean, that's part of it. And missed. Not really. Okay. So, to really put it into what actually happened, I did, I was cutting wood. We had a campfire going, and I was cutting wood to, like, set up stuff with, like, smaller pieces in the fire. And so I was cutting some wood down to, like, smaller pieces, and since I wasn't gonna use, like, a hatchet or a actual, like, saw or something, because I didn't have that, my friend was over, he had his knife, and I'm just like, hey, can I use your knife? And he had just recently sharpened his knife, so it worked really well for cutting wood. But also, one thing that you want to understand when you're cutting wood is where you're cutting towards and how easily the wood will break. Because when I was cutting the wood, I was cutting towards myself, which that is entirely my fault. That is why I cut my hand, and it was not smart. But yeah, I was cutting towards myself, and I was just trying to cut down the line of wood, and the wood broke. So the amount of force that I was putting into it just breaks. The wood breaks. The knife that I'm cutting towards myself just fucking yeets itself into my hand. And yeah, it didn't bleed a whole lot right away. But I was like, that is the hardest I have ever hit myself with a knife before. I am gonna run inside. Like, I didn't say anything to my friend. He was sitting right next to me. I'm just like, I cut myself. And then I ran inside, which is not a good idea to run, especially when you just got like a bad cut, because increasing your heart rate will increase the blood flowing out of the fucking wound. So yeah, I had blood flowing out of my hand, and when I went inside, I didn't realize how bad it was, so I was just like, I'll just get like a fucking big band-aid or some shit. I could not use a big band-aid for that. It was like an inch long cut. There was no way I was gonna there's no way I was just gonna solve that with a band-aid. So but like, my dad was on the phone, and I didn't want to, you know, annoy him or get in his way, because that's just me. I think that I can just do everything on myself. I don't want to get in the way of other people doing whatever they're doing. So like, my dad being on the phone, I was just like, I don't want to bother him. I'll just like be like, hey, can you open this band-aid? And he's just like, yeah, no, that's not, and that's a big cut. You don't want to, a band-aid's not gonna cut it for that. So yeah, he hung up the phone. We went into the bathroom to get all of the different first aid shit that we have. And I did drip a little bit of blood on the carpet, so my dad was like, "Get that into the bathroom." So I went and just gone to the bathroom, and then he like tended to my wound. The first thing he said was, "Ooh, that might need a stitch." That was the first thing he said, which is the scariest shit coming from someone who's like when you just like cut yourself and it's like, oh, it's not that bad, and I've never been to the hospital for an injury before. So he tries to do what he can. We wash out the wound. It's still like bleeding like a motherfucker. So my dad just tries what he can to like cut off the blood while he can actually go get some like actual bandages and like gauze and everything. So he like pushed my skin. This is kind of graphic, but I'm not showing anything. He pushed the skin of the cut closed. Like, from one edge of the cut, he just pushed it forward, and it would block off the blood flow. Well, the blood flowing out of my hand, not cutting off circulation blood flow. So, yeah, he said, hold that there while I go get, like, the other stuff. So I got my finger there, my other hand, I put my finger to hold the wound closed, and then he gets the stuff, he keeps the wound closed, he puts gauze over it, presses it down, puts a band-aid over it so that it'll, like, for one, hold the skin in place, and two, hold the gauze in place. And then he wrapped it out, and then he, like, wrapped it with, like, medical tape and everything. And throughout this whole thing, I was very close to passing out. Like, my friend came in, because, like, he was like, oh, I thought you just nicked yourself. I didn't think it was actually this bad. So he's just like, it's taking a while, so I'm gonna go inside and check on you. Hold on, NMJBE. But yeah, he came in and like checked in on me. And he saw how pale I was and everything. So yeah, that was fun. He kept eye contact with me, which was, I know that scared the shit out of him. He told me about it. I, like, was just staring at him because I needed something to look at so I didn't pass out. Because I was getting, like, serious tunnel vision. I could barely see anything. And I really did not want to pass out, especially when my dad was in the middle of, like, dressing the wound. I did not want, I did not want shit to happen there. It's... Yeah, but I was staring at my friend, and he kept eye contact, which I don't think he should have done, because that probably scared the hell out of him more than it really did much to me. Because I could have just stared at him and kept him in my line of sight, but he kept eye contact with me and, like, looking at me and making sure that I was okay. And he said, do you want me to go get water? And I'd, like, barely nodded. And I'm just like, yes. So he goes and gets me water. My weak ass hands, because I was bleeding to hell. I go and drink the fucking water. My dad finishes closing out the wound. And then I go into the living room and I lay on the couch with my newly wrapped hand. And yeah, it was great. And for some dumb reason that night, I didn't sleep with painkillers. So I slept a solid, like, 2 hours in like the 8 hours I was in bed. It was a great night. But yeah, that is how I cut my hand, and that's like the whole story on everything that happened after I cut my hand. So it was pretty much it was an adventurous night. How deep was the cut? Well, it was like right on my knuckle. It's pretty. It's kind of close to my knuckle. There's like veins and nerves right there, so it's kind of like, yikes. But it's like on your left hand. Look, right where your knuckle is, and then put your hand like vertical, so like skinny, I guess, and then right in front of the knuckle, well, from about the middle of the knuckle to the start of your index finger is how long the cut is. I mean, it changes. That's different with whoever you're talking to on the sides of your hand, but for my hands, that's about an inch long. From like midway back in my knuckle to my index finger. Yeah, somewhere like that. And it's also diagonal, so gotta take that into account. But it's about an inch long of a cut. That's about where it was. So since there's bone right there, there's not much for it to go in. So it wasn't actually that deep of a cut. It's just it was not a good cut. It was bleeding pretty bad. And from what my dad said, I probably should have gone in to the hospital and gotten stitches, but we just didn't do that. And yeah, it was kind of scary, especially when I was lightheaded as fuck and I almost passed out on two occasions. I think they were like a minute apart that I got really close to passing out. But yeah, that was wonderful. It was a bit unfortunate, but I'm glad I'm okay, and I'm glad my dad had the stuff to like make it not death. So yeah, that was the story on how I cut my hand. And it looks like nothing other than a cat scratch now. It's only been a few days, but it's actually healed really well. And it looks like it barely is a cat scratch, but it's definitely more than a cat scratch.